All right, good evening, bar rats. This is RickCast, and I am very happy to be here, and I hope you are too on this beautiful April 2nd, 2025, Liberation Day, some people are calling it, but we're going to dispense with the normal pleasantries because we are very fortunate to have a guest with us tonight. He is the founder of Current Revolt. You may have seen him on programs like Timcast and more. Some would even call it the paper of record here in the great state of Texas. Welcome to RickCast, Mr. Tony Ortiz. Thank you, sir, for taking some time to join us tonight.
Rick, hey, thanks so much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine, sir. So let's get to it since we got a little bit of time and we want to make sure we get as much in with you as possible. The big news today, obviously, is that it is the Liberation Day from President Trump talking about tariffs and so forth. So let's just get to it. We'll watch it. It's a 4-minute video, but we are not watching all 4 minutes of it. Just a little bit of Trump talking about his tariffs and what he has in mind, and then we'll jump right to it.
So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%. So we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much across the board. We'll talk about that as it goes. But just for anybody, in case they didn't know, Trump in the Rose Garden today, as you just saw, he imposed reciprocal tariffs across the board on pretty much everybody, citing what he calls years of unfair trade practices. And really just takes a look at just some of this stuff. It's actually kind of amazing, Tony. When you look at places like Madagascar that did 93%, I don't know what Madagascar has, but apparently they think it's 93% worth. But the real bullseye here is China and maybe the European Union a little bit, because they're kind of pissing Trump off with not really helping him with the whole Ukraine situation. But people are freaking out. Everybody says it's going to be terrible. life is going to be awful. Your coffee is going to be more expensive. Your avocado toast will magically disappear, and all these other kinds of things. Just the general reaction, your take that we're finally here. We talked about tariffs on the campaign trail. We talked about it coming up to this point. You know, just like everything else with Trump, we're here. So your thoughts on the tariffs being imposed?
Yeah, this is one of those things that I think a lot of people had gotten promises for, right? But nobody expected him to follow through on. And President Trump has delivered, which is, I think, a common sentiment with his campaign this time around. 2016, I believe, left a lot of people lacking and felt like maybe he didn't follow through on a ton of what he had asked or said he was going to do. But this time around, he has delivered. And this is one of his campaign promises. And you know, I call them normies, people that really are connected super much to politics. And I showed this tariff chart to a couple of my normie friends, and they looked at it and they were like, they had no idea that these countries were charging us such huge tariffs. In fact, I didn't know some of these were that high. I mean, this is kind of insane. So even the friends I have that were not really super pro-Trump or kind of even anti-Trump in a way, but were conservative, saw this chart and the idea of reciprocal tariffs, and they said, you know, this seems actually pretty fair, and hopefully it's a good bargaining tool to get these things taken away.
It's a great point, because most people here in these United States, because we have such a strong economy, strongest in the world, you could argue next to China, we've just been looked at as a consumer. Oh, I saw somebody online say we're just a strip mall with an airport, right? We just consume everybody else's stuff, and we absorb their tariffs kind of because we're the big guy on the block and we don't want to hurt anybody else, in the spirit of just holding hands and singing Kumbaya. But there comes a point when you look at some of the stuff that we don't export, or some of the stuffs that we don't have, in particular, when you look at a chart like this, where China makes all of our pharmaceuticals, makes most of our pharmaceuticals. And that's just absolutely insane when you think of a thing like COVID or any other issue. If we were to get into a tussle with the Chinese or whatever the case may be, we have no way to produce antibiotics, chips, sneakers, jeans, iPhones, any of these things. And I think because we've lived in such a comfy bubble for 60, 70 plus years, the Democrats can use the thought of economic pain to get on people. But the fact is, if you don't suffer a little bit up front, in the end, you're still going to be in a terrible position, essentially having to bend to the whims of countries that you don't really share similar values with.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people will likely see, or what we'll likely see, is that this is just a bargaining chip. President Trump has done this consistently throughout his life, where he does something incredibly strong and follows through on his rhetoric that is incredibly aggressive. And his opponents or fellow countries or people he's negotiating with don't believe him. And then once he does something like this, they're like, "Holy heck! Like this guy's serious. He's actually going to follow through on what he said, and we better ship up, right?" And so I think this will be one of those instances where these tariffs on certain countries will last for only a little while, and then they will come back to the table and adjust. And to your point, like what you're saying, it makes it impossible. Like imagine you're an American manufacturer. Like, it makes it impossible to compete on the global stage when you have countries charging a 90% tariff. Like I think one of them, and I could be wrong, but Vietnam was like 90%. What the heck does Vietnam think they're doing? Like how, and frankly, how dare they charge us a tariff so high? And I can't believe like that they got away with it for so long. So I think this will open the eyes for a lot of Americans that we're not in a fair playing field, and hopefully get some respect back in the economic sense.
Agreed. One of my niches, I'm the armed Catholic or the armed papist anymore. It's an American industry, right? Guns and bullets and all these other kinds of things. Most people don't realize that optics, Trijicon, Vortex, all of your favorite optics are essentially made in like 4 factories in China.
Yeah. It's a big joke. I mean, I'm a big gun guy myself, and you'll see it on Amazon. You see a knockoff, like what's it called? Knockoff optic. And it's like you'll read the gun forums and they're like, "Oh, it's the same thing." Like Vortex, Vortex is a big one, and I've got a Vortex optic. Love their warranty; they stand by their products. But yeah, it's just made in China junk essentially.
Yeah, I actually was doing. I used to work for a company, and he made his own optic for for rifles. And the first question is because he made handguards, and they were all, his whole thing was made in the USA. They would run up to him and be like, "Is this optic made in the USA?" He went, "Nope." Because the glass and all that stuff, there's only 3 or 4 factories, like you said. And so American companies can't even get in the door to compete with these people. And the idea is we have so many, when you subtract, foreign workers from the job growth post-COVID, it was almost zero for Americans. And that's because there's limited opportunities. If you don't want to work in a call center or any of these other places, there's no advancement like there used to be. And bringing these things back, we've already seen, battery factory in North Carolina. We've seen a lot of auto industries because they're worried about their tariffs. They're like, yeah, we'll build all these other things because people don't realize, like the Honda Ridgeline, it's built in Alabama. And it's more American, you could say, than like a Chevy or a Ford that are built in either Mexico or Canada. But this does have a great potential for bringing back at least some stability. It's just not an economic issue. It's also a national security issue as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm a big car guy too, on the side of guns, but I do enjoy import cars. And initially when I heard this, like, man, this sucks because I'm a big Japanese car guy. But
Yep.
it's just fair. I mean, I saw Japan was listed as one of the countries charging us a tariff. I think it was like 54%. If you're an American auto manufacturer, how do you compete with that? I've been to Japan several times. You very rarely see American cars over there, and if you do, it's a show-off car like a Mustang or a giant truck. You're not going to see a Ford Focus over there, right? Or a Chevy Equinox over there. So yeah, we can't compete. So hopefully these are short term, and it forces these countries to kind of bend the knee and be a little bit more fair to us.
Yeah, it's 46% right now that Japan does on us. And I have to follow up. What's your favorite make import? Japanese import?
I'm a big Mazda guy. The Mazda's been really good
Nice.
to me. So
People always underestimated the Mazda 3 Speed edition.
oh yeah, the Mazda Speed 3, yeah.
Oh, the hatchback edition, that was always a secret favorite of mine.
Yeah, it's a
But
cool car.
especially with the 5-speed. But
Yeah.
I always loved it. So yes, that's the tariffs. We're looking at that. It's going to be painful, but necessary in the long term. So it's good to see Trump's out there. And you did mention that other countries are going to bend the knee. Big back and forth, a sibling spat, if you will, between the U.S. and Canada. The people in Canada are taking this way more seriously than we are because apparently they've never been told no by the U.S. But today there was a response from one of the Canadian officials in regards to these tariffs.
And discuss this because it's just going to hurt American jobs. I can't stress it enough. And, again, he believes he's supporting Americans. He said he was going to create jobs, create wealth, reduce inflation. It's worked the total opposite. Inflation.
But do you think it's fair that you have tariffs on a whole number of products?
That's right. And we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off. We are not the problem.
And I mean, he can keep talking for the next 5 minutes. It doesn't matter because that's exactly what they said they weren't going to do. And you saw all these people we're not going to give up our maple syrup and all these other things. He's like, yeah, no, we'll do it tomorrow. Just please stop.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Like these countries want to act tough, and nobody wants to give Trump a win. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money and numbers, and a lot of these countries literally cannot afford to put their pride against their economy.
Yeah, it's also because most of these countries, and this is the last point we'll make, most of them have gone off the socialist, liberalism edge, and they just, orange man bad forever. And they just, like you said, they will not give Trump the win. This is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Very happy to have Tony Ortiz here of Current Revolt, giving us some of his time tonight. We thank him for being with us. Drop a like and tell us, thanks for hanging out. So let's get to a Texas issue. Since we're both Texans, I'm right outside Killeen. Don't tell anybody that because it's Killeen. But the fact of the matter is, Tesla's reports came out today, and liberals want to act like this is a huge deal. But this is really a response to the scare tactic that it is. We'll take a quick look.
first quarter deliveries of 2025 on Wednesday, and it was just short of 336,700 EVs.
I apologize
That's well
for the
below
voice.
analyst expectations. Those numbers are 13% lower than the same period last year, and they're also the worst the company has seen since 2022. Tesla said the decline is due to changes in the production lines ahead of the new Model Y. Tesla sales in Germany and Australia both declined over 70% year over year in February. Tesla sales also recently declined in the US and China, two key markets for the car maker. Some think that the sales decline may partially be due to the growing boycott movement against Tesla. Ross Gerber, a longtime investor who recently turned bearish, said that the brand is broken and Cybertruck is basically not selling. Tesla has told investors that it expects its vehicle business to return to growth in 2025, and there's still some opportunity for it to do that. The EV giant is approaching a self-imposed June deadline for two major developments: production of a sub-30K Tesla and the company's robotaxi service launching in Austin. Only time will tell if Tesla will hit those marks.
So, I know you've driven by, I call it the SS concrete, with the giant concrete building off near Austin Airport. There's the Teslas all over the place. So the couple things there, it's really here in the US, it's the response to the fact that driving a Tesla right now, especially a Cybertruck, like you can get away with a Model Y. It kind of looks like a BMW. Not many people know that, but if you're driving a Cybertruck, everybody knows it's a Tesla, and that's the one that's being targeted for keys and all other kinds of stuff. And especially here, I don't know if you guys over at Current Revolt took a look at any of the Tesla takedown protests or even kept an eye on them, but just even stuff like that is really bringing attention to the brand in ways that normies, like you were talking about when we were talking about tariffs, normies don't want this attention. And that's one thing they were doing. I know something that it's actually pretty crazy. We were talking about cars in foreign countries. Tesla's one that's everywhere. Rome, essentially a dealership was set on fire right outside of Rome. And the Italians are like, Trump isn't here, so I don't know why you're setting them on fire. But the fact is, Tesla has the bullseye on its back. And that's what happens when you have a front-facing CEO. It's great when everybody loves him, everybody wants to buy it. But when half the country thinks he is the embodiment of evil and his cars are the embodiment of evil, it really does put a target on these people's back. So if you want to talk about any of the Tesla takedowns around the state that you noticed, or just your general overall take on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that Musk getting involved in Trump's campaign and in his cabinet and everything has hurt the brand. I mean, of course, right? And it's going to hurt it with the wrong type of people, the left and liberals, and they take things to the extreme. So there's no denying that. I imagine that some of the stock going down is a direct result of his involvement. I would, and I say this as a car guy, but like also that doesn't follow the market. But like, I would be curious to see what other brands are also, what their sales look like. Is Ford, is Mazda, is Toyota? Are they also seeing a decline in sales for the first quarter? Considering the economy, is this all 100% because of Musk? And again, as a car guy, like I'm not a big electric car guy, I'm really not. But I actually really do. I have driven an $80,000 Audi electric car. I had it for about 3 days, and it was probably the worst electric car experience I've ever had in my entire life. And then I drove a $40,000 Tesla, and it was amazing. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So Musk really does have the electric car thing down. He really does. And they mentioned that they've got this automated cars coming. I was in Austin a couple weeks ago, maybe, and I tried the Waymo. I think it's what it's called. It's the automated cars there.
Yep.
Amazing experience, like compared to an Uber. Like you don't have, it just shows up on time. You get in, it takes you to your destination. You're not dealing with a smelly car or some weird music or some guy on his phone, and it drops you off, and you don't even have to tip. Like, sucks that it gets rid of jobs, maybe, but it was just a fantastic experience. So if Musk is going to get that locked down, that's just going to increase. I think they're going to get a big bump in that stock there too. So I don't know. It doesn't. Again, it doesn't surprise me though that the left has resorted to violence in this sort of thing. I anticipate that after they make an example of a few of these protesters in court and send them to jail, that maybe it'll kind of die down a little bit.
Indeed, it's one of these things that yes, law enforcement has to act, and they acted in Las Vegas. They went after those. The Las Vegas police got after them. And really, it's the summer. We got to be careful because the summer's coming up, and we're already starting to see this time of year when it's not really supposed to be happening. So the summer is really going to be a peak test on that. You brought up other cars. Trucks like Dodges, Chevys, they're all sitting on lots because they all went overpriced after COVID. So it is funny how they cherry pick. Oh, well, Tesla's down. Nobody's talking about the fact that Ford doesn't make the Lightning anymore because the Lightning was an absolute disaster. Their answer to the Cybertruck. So yeah, of course they want to cherry pick to make Musk look bad. But it's not the first time they've missed deadlines or they've done other things. I mean, the Cybertruck was like 4 years late, and that always was an issue. So Tesla is the EV market. Everybody else should just leave it alone because, you know, when Chevy or Ford tried to make like when Ford had Jaguar and they tried to make Jaguars, they made them worse because they just made Ford parts and they slapped a Jaguar label on it. It's kind of what they do with electric cars now. So it's going to be interesting to see how the state, and especially I'd like to see Ken Paxton step up and try to really say, like, listen, you know, Tesla is a Texas company. If anybody's caught in this state vandalizing them or intimidating people, because we see people in like Arizona, they're getting run off the road and they're being physically attacked. Law enforcement does need to come down and make an example out of it to ensure that safety overall and the normies and the people, ironically, the leftists that bought these cars in the first place can continue to drive and just, you know, operate in peace like they're allowed to.
Yeah, and I'm looking just to fact check myself. I'm looking to see what other manufacturers are reporting for their Q1 sales. Ford has a 1.3% drop in U.S. sales for the first quarter. Toyota only had a 1% rise in the first quarter, and then I can't really find anybody else currently. But those are the two I think that are probably good comparisons, Ford and Toyota. So it's not much. I mean, I think she referenced a 13% decline in Q1 sales for Tesla. So I would say, yeah, it sounds relatively significant but that's the cost you pay for getting involved, I suppose. And it's unfortunate, but again, with his upcoming technology, I don't anticipate that it'll stay down for long.
And also Tesla is not just cars, right? It's also energy and it's a bunch of other things as well. So it's not like they're dependent solely on that. So,
Right.
that takes care of the Tesla issue. And I think that we're right at the 30-minute mark. So I don't know if you can hang around, if you got to go.
I do have to head out, but I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.
Hey, no, we thank you for having the time to take with us. Tony Ortiz of Current Revolt. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Y'all have a good day. Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, this is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you like that, maybe other people will join our show. Tony Ortiz, he's a pretty big deal, man. He was on Timcast like less than a month ago. So, and Current Revolt is a pretty awesome paper around here. Now we can talk about how great it is. I don't want to seem like I was brown nosing earlier, but it is nice. It was very nice. And big shout out to Magdalene for when she told me that today. I'm like, really? I'm like, really? He's coming on my show? But no, that's fantastic. So we got some more stories, guys, because I still got like a half hour left with y'all. Oh yeah. Well, I counted the 30 minutes a little early but I don't ever want to, you know what I don't like doing? I don't like wasting people's time. And if he's going to be nice enough to take some time out, I don't want to keep anybody over. That's plus that's the old radio thing. When you're in radio, you only had like 20 minutes with a guest if you were lucky. So you don't want to be greedy in any of this kind of stuff. And Steph is here, and Steph is really angry about she's ready to come at all of us and be like, Tesla sucks and I don't like Trump. Good to see you too, Steph. Yeah, well, if you notice, this is the Cybertrucks and the Teslas have this. You can search Twitter or TikTok or any of these other ones, and they'll be like, I just bought $100,000 Cybertruck and the doors don't shut. So this is not a new thing. And it's kind of a joke that when you buy the Tesla, something's going to go wrong, but they drive really well. The electronic part, because it's an electronics company. Tesla's an electronics company. So the inside works. I know, Steph. Look at you. Just pretty facts out. That's it. They are pretty facts. Thank you, Steph. But very interesting to see all these things taking place, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes from here on out with stuff like Tesla. And I really am worried about people driving Teslas in the summer, because like I said, that's not a joke. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let's see. Tesla Rome. I've been to Rome a couple times, wink wink, at little humble brag, but get out of here, you stupid thing. Yes, my privacy. Italian police increased security at a Tesla dealership after 17 cars were destroyed in a fire. It was on the eastern side of the city. I actually haven't been out there. I'm usually been in the east, the center, and the west. Terverste and places like that. I actually haven't been to Torre Angela, but still, that's pretty crazy. You've been to Rome. What parts of Rome have you been to, or when was the last time when you went? Where did you do just all like the problem when you go to Rome, and this is a crazy problem, is there's so much stuff. Even if you have 5 days, it's hard to hit all of it. The best thing to do is to get one of those tours and try to hit like everything in the first 2 days so you can try to enjoy the rest of it. But this is a place that is not in America, and Elon Musk has no reason. People shouldn't be. There's no Doge in Italy, so why are they setting fires to Teslas? And there's actually a lot of Teslas. My wife and I were walking around last year, and we couldn't help but notice there was a ton of the what's the big fat SUV, the Model Y. There are a bunch of Model Ys running around, driving around Rome, and a lot of electric like minis. And the crazy thing is they don't have superchargers and stuff. They just have like battery packs on the wall. People just plug their stuff in and go around. Would I buy that? Well, Steph, I would encourage you to look into the safety recalls of other vehicles too. It's not just Tesla. Look at the Toyota Tundra, the big one, not the Tacoma, the Tundra. Look at the Toyota Tacoma. I can't. They named them both with a T, so I sound like a moron. The Tundra. The Tundra recalls are terrible right now, and that's a Toyota brand that has a really bad. Toyotas have an amazing reputation, yet right now, because they changed their entire drivetrain from the reliable V8 to this crappy Max Force turbo V6, the things just fall, like the engine's falling out of the friggin' car. But this is very interesting that even in other places across the world, we're seeing attacks on Tesla dealerships. And like I said before, let me see one more thing. Arizona Tesla. Like I didn't want to do all this with Tony. I didn't want to waste his time going back. Here we go. So this happened 2 days ago. Let's bring this back up. Whatever, dude. Get out of here with. Yes, I'm happy that you have the newsletter. Go away. Can you? All right, fine, whatever. Is there a way to get out of this? Thank you. Tesla driver allegedly assaulted by fellow motorists on Arizona road. So a Tesla driver claimed fellow motorists targeted her on an Arizona road last month, because she was driving an Elon Musk made car. She was 61. She was assaulted by a 33-year-old man on Route 66 in Flagstaff after the man used his green Chevrolet Cavalier to box her Tesla in. Then he got out and approached her, leading to an altercation. Folks, somebody's going to get shot. And as the guy who preaches self-defense, as a guy who talks about self-defense all the time, you don't want to get into these situations, and you shouldn't have to. What the hell am I doing? Which one's that? Oh, U.S. Essentials. We were going to talk about U.S. Essentials, but we kind of talked about that. We'll talk about him in a minute. You all go away. Nobody wants to get shot because they're driving a car, right? people should be able to drive vehicles that they want to drive without fear or repercussions of other things, of being attacked. So it's not going to be, I really do worry about the summer and people who drive Teslas in the summer as the weather gets warmer. So, we'll just hope beyond hope that nothing really negative will come out from that. All right, folks, this is RickCast. Thank you once again to our guest, Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. If you're coming in now, he had to get out early because, he's a big, he has stuff to do. And, he was nice enough to take some time with us. So I didn't want to wait, keep him longer. They told me he's got a heart out. I was, all right, I want to respect that. So I did. And let's see here. So we got a couple other things that we'll do some hot takes right now as well, because I didn't want to do that with him here. So hold on a second. There is Anna Paul. The response to Anna Paula Luna today from yesterday's vote was very interesting. So let's bring this up before we get to our next point. Let's get this in here. So Thirst Trap, Anna Paulina Luna leaves House Freedom Caucus amid split with colleagues over the proxy vote. Folks, this is covert feminism right here. This is it. You infiltrate the party. You're MAGA, you're super MAGA, which, a bunch of the simp men came out and be like, she's such a warrior for MAGA. You guys leave her alone because she may have had a bad take here, but she's super, super great. Shut up, you simp. All right. She did bad. Tell her she did bad. Don't simp for a woman because you like how she looks in the swimsuit or whatever the case. You bunch of thirsty boys. And anybody that defends her is pathetic. Right? This was an unconstitutional resolution that was put out there. Proxy voting is unconstitutional and it will be abused. All right. You have people that make $175,000 a year wanting to do less work by, voting from home, which means you'll never get your term limits. The people that are desperate for term limits, you'll never get them. So now she's leaving because apparently you can't, she's never been told no a day in her life. So now the people are like, yeah, this is a bad move. She's like, well, I'm not going to be a part of your Freedom Caucus anyway. She'll probably be a Dem, within 2 cycles. She'll run again. She'll get elected. And then eventually she'll say, I just can't align myself with these people. And then she'll become a Democrat. Or she'll leave Congress eventually. And then she'll go on like The View as the former MAGA and just be a complete and total psycho spewing anti-Trump nonsense or anti-conservative nonsense. Yeah, Dianne Feinstein would still be working in the House, in the Senate right now if proxy voting was allowed. If you had proxy voting right now, Mitch McConnell would not be retiring. It's that simple. So it is what it is. I got to keep the microphone close to me. I'm very comfortable in my new chair, so I got to make sure y'all can hear my beautiful sulky, voice. But this is just, it's a typical reaction. Instead of saying, maybe this wasn't a great idea. Now she's stomping her feet and she's leaving the Freedom Caucus. Maybe you shouldn't have been there to begin with. Maybe you just aligned because you knew that was how you were going to get elected. And now that you are in there, you've been elected a couple times. Now you get to, show your true colors. So I don't like it. And it's really one of these. So age and having a baby is the same. Well, let me. That's an interesting argument you present. My counter argument to you, Steph, is: do any of the people who are in Congress, do they have a right to be there, or is it a privilege to be there? Meaning, if you are going to be a new mom, can you really devote proper amount of time to your constituents? Even if you're proxy voting, does that mean you're going to be devoting enough time to your constituents, or are you not going to be paying attention? I mean, it's essentially work from home. So yes, in a way, age and having a baby or anything that prevents you from being the completely not devoted, but giving your complete attention to the job that you were elected to do, I think is a disqualifying fact. So it is what it is. I think they both, in a matter of speaking, yes, because they both prevent you from doing and devoting your full attention to the job that you have been elected to. You didn't get elected so you could be like, oh, well, I'll only do the job half the time. Now that you elected me, I'll only do it every once in a while. No, you got elected to do it. So that's my view on Anna Paulina Luna. It is what it is in that regard. She's, MAGA men are going to defend her because they're pathetic. And, it's a matriarchal culture. Like I went on a 15-minute diatribe last night. If you weren't here for that, Steph, you need to watch my video on it because some say it was epic. And if their vote is not agreeing with the people, they will probably lose the next time. Yes, but you know what? They should be in Congress to make that vote, not at their home in their PJs. To do it. I mean, it's just not. I don't think it's a proper. I don't think the two are the same. I really don't. So it is what it is. All right. This is RickCast, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to one more hot take. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, especially Steph. Jasmine Crockett, the gift that keeps on giving, decided to drop another truth bomb, an unwitting truth bomb, if you will, on the House on a House committee today. Let's take a listen.
Is this?
What are you doing? Nope. A, no. B, yes.
Is this? When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy.
So she just admitted her only qualification, not that she was a good public defender, not that she was a good lawyer, not that she studied hard, not that she had good recommendations from her professor. She should have been hired based on her skin color. That's democracy in a nutshell. What's really going to burn you, Steph, is when I tell you that we're not a democracy, is that we're a constitutional republic. And she is a representative. She's elected to that position. So that's what that is. Now you're going to be like, democracy because we're electing her. Fine, whatever. If you want to split hairs on that. But yes, that's Jasmine Crockett telling you that her only qualifications for anything is the fact that she's a black woman. That's it. That's all she has. Whatever the case may be in that regard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us move on to our next story here. Let me make sure it's the right one. You can get rid of that because these ads pop up, man. It's awful. I got to clear. And the thing is, I clear these ads the first time and then they still come back. She could still sell ice to an Eskimo. Who? Paulina Luna or Jasmine Crockett? Which one are we talking about? I don't know. I guess. I don't know. A little pushback tonight. I like it. You're wrong, but I'm right. Next story up. Hire me because of the color of my skin. Yeah, I mean, she might. If she thought that could get her the job, she absolutely would have. She absolutely would have. She would have been more than happy to base everything on her skin color because she's an idolater. She's a racial idolater. The only thing that matters to her is her skin color. Nothing else matters. And that's her entire political philosophy. All right, moving on to our next story. Boo, get away. Here we go. As the clock ticks for TikTok, here's who wants to buy it by April 8th. There are 6 days, which would be Saturday, I believe. April 8th would be Saturday. And that is the time when the ban on TikTok would officially go into play because they had only a couple months to be bought by another company. So let's take a listen.
There's likely to be some action, and that, as you said, there's a meeting in the White House today. It's a good time for this discussion, Matthew. A red headline crossing the Bloomberg terminal as we speak. Amazon puts in a last-minute bid to acquire all of TikTok. What do you make of that?
That's fascinating. I mean, to me, that underscores how far we are away from a resolution here. And you're talking about, some indication that that a deal could be in place by Saturday. I don't think so. There are so many moving pieces here, and new bids coming in, that the idea that all of this is going to be resolved in 3 days seems pretty fantastic. So I think what you're likely to see is sort of some indication of movement towards a deal, and President Trump again kicking the can down the road. And the only question is anyone going to stand up to that? There was a lot of political courage to advocate for a ban of TikTok last year. There were some votes in Congress that were 50-0 for it. But now President Trump has a warm spot in his heart for TikTok, as he says, and suddenly some of that courage is falling away. So that's going to be the interesting dynamic, is how much lawmakers or maybe TikTok's competitors stand up and say, hey, we have a law on the books here that bans TikTok. Are we going to enforce it or not?
So to that point, I guess I wonder what part of TikTok is still left to be bought. In that, is it just going to be the U.S. stuff, which may not be as valuable, or is it going to also be the technology that kind of sits?
Here's the thing. If TikTok does sell, which I don't think they will, because it's an intelligence weapon by the Chinese, which is why I've always, I think it's an app. It's been used to destroy society and destroy the attention span of society. But B, they are not giving up the algorithm that they have on TikTok. They will never give it up to the US. So if somebody does buy it, it'll turn into like the old platform Vine, or like how, MySpace was bought by Rupert Murdoch and then it just became a shell of its former self. If somebody buys it, all you're getting is the name.
It's in China. And if that's the case, how do we get that?
That's sort of the $1 million question here, because there was a lot of pushback in Congress for the idea that a company tied to China would still have control over the algorithm. And a lot of the solutions you're seeing floated around look a lot like what TikTok was pitching as Project Texas last year, where the U.S. operations would work here on maybe under Oracle or someone else, but the algorithm would still ultimately be controlled by ByteDance. And the question is that the sort of solution that we're talking about here? Because ultimately China and ByteDance need to agree to this. And with Trump kicking the can down the road on this ban, I'm not sure they have a lot of concern. I don't know that the U.S. has a lot of leverage to force them to sell the algorithm. So it seems very likely that we're looking at some sort of solution that keeps that algorithm tied to China, tied to ByteDance. And the question is Congress going to be okay with that now in a way they weren't last year?
I mean, silly question, but there's no indication that ByteDance wants to sell here. So, I mean, an Amazon.
I have a feeling that ByteDance will just shut down. They will be more than happy just to take their ball and go home.
Bid is impressive, but I don't think I've got to sell it there, do I?
That's been the problem, through this whole process is ByteDance really willing to sell, and especially the algorithm component here with China needing to bless that. So yeah, a lot of offers, a lot of talk, but I think we're far from any sort of final resolution here.
So to that point, this goes back to the earlier headline that Paul just broke, that Amazon's putting in that last-minute bid to acquire all of TikTok. This is according to the New York Times. Who else quickly is on the docket to potentially buy?
Yeah, so I mean, you keep seeing Oracle mentioned as a potential bidder. You saw Frank McCourt was on Bloomberg Television earlier, and a number of other names floating around. I don't have great visibility into all those offers. I've heard 4 offers talked about, but I think we'll learn more this afternoon after this meeting as President Trump considers next steps here. But again, a lot of open questions on the law and big questions politically of whether people are going to advocate for the law that was adopted last year.
So that's the big thing that we're looking at, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to be anything that's kind of crazy, but at the same time, I do not expect ByteDance to sell. I don't, because that it's too valuable of a I don't like that, of a platform. It really is. So that's the big thing here. They're looking to bring in or try to settle this once and for all. I don't know if anything's going to happen there, but I don't think they'll sell. And if they do, you're just going to get the husk of the platform. You're not going to get TikTok as TikTok. And we'll see ultimately what goes on there. All right, folks, this is RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you are hanging out with me, I appreciate that greatly. And let's get to our final story of the night. Sad story, but unfortunately a story nevertheless. You go away. You go in. Val Kilmer. Batman Forever, Tombstone, The Doors, Willow, dead at 65. Now, he had been suffering from throat cancer, I believe, for a while. And there's I think it's on Amazon. If you have Amazon, I know, but there's a documentary about Val Kilmer that's actually pretty impactful, talking about his rise and what happened to him, and how he was pretty much sidelined with his throat cancer. So Val Kilmer, who played Bruce Wayne in Batman Forever, channeled Jim Morrison and Oliver Stone's The Doors, and starred in the tubercular Doc Holliday in Tombstone, died Tuesday in Los Angeles. His daughter Mercedes told the New York Times the cause was pneumonia. He was 65. He had battling throat cancer for several years. The babyface blonde actor had a solid run as a leading man. Oh, I forgot Heat. Get out of here with this crap. Can I get rid of this? No. You have Heat as well. Very few actors have the generational run that he did, right? A lot of actors have one, maybe two good roles. There's at least 4 roles that you could go off of. Obviously, Iceman in Top Gun. Obviously, when he was in Heat. Obviously, Doc Holliday in Tombstone. Obviously, Real Genius was another one. Spy Movie, I believe, was the other one he was in. Mad Madigan in Willow. I actually remember that because that was like one of those action figures I had when I was younger. And I dig Willow. I think Willow is a pretty good movie. As a short guy, it gives me hope as a hero. But you're right. That scene has been going around on social media, that last scene between him and Tom Cruise, and just the gravitas that is there, because that's his last major film role. Mad Morgan. Yes, sorry, Mad Morgan. Loved Mad Morgan, even though he was essentially a Han Solo ripoff, because Willow was made by George Lucas after he couldn't get the rights to Lord of the Rings. He's like, I'll just make my own. And it did well. It just didn't sell the toys necessary, because that's all Lucas cares about is the merchandise. But I actually had some of them. But I really enjoyed Willow. But the generational run that the guy had was impressive, because he had at least 4 roles that he'll always be known for. And in the documentary, it's kind of sad, because he went to Tombstone a couple years back, and he was watching the movie, and he was happy to be there and all this stuff. But then in the background, while everybody else was watching the movie, he's just like, oh, now, he's like, I feel old because all I'm doing is living in the past. And it's sad for actors when they have to deal with that kind of stuff. But in the end, you have to understand. Also, I think he got robbed in the Batman franchise. I really thought he was a halfway decent Batman. Those Batman movies by Joel Schumacher were not good anyway. So, I mean, George Clooney was terrible, but in that movie was terrible anyway. But the fact that he he brought a lot more gravitas to it. Of course, if you ever asked him about that Batman film, he's like, it's a Batman film, but I'm not in it. I mean, everybody else has stuff and I just kind of stand there. So that's why he really didn't like it. Yeah. So, there are a lot of things that are not great about getting old. I can tell you, my body is definitely hurting. But there is grace in getting old as well. Yeah, he got robbed twice. He got robbed twice. Once for Doc. He should have gotten it for Doc. The only reason this is going to be a really it's going to be a controversial take, but I don't really care. If he's not in that, Tombstone isn't a good film. Yes, Kurt Russell is really good as Wyatt Earp, but it's an average movie without him because he steals every scene that he's in. And also, the backstory behind that is the director essentially quit, and Kurt Russell had to direct that film. Essentially, the story is that he had to kind of direct the film because the director kind of just walked off. But he saves the film Tombstone. He does. And he should have gotten an Oscar, at least a nomination for Doc. And then The Doors. I've never sat through the entire Doors film because I don't need a 3-hour movie about Jim Morrison. But the work and the preparation, the way he embodied him, yeah, he got robbed on that one as well. My favorite line in the entire Tombstone movie is not, say when and all that stuff. Those are all great lines. My favorite line is after the fight, the gunfight at the river. And somebody asks, Doc's like coughing up blood. He's like, whoa. And people, one guy goes, Doc, what are you doing here, man? You're sick. You shouldn't be here. And Doc says, well, Wyatt Earp is my friend. And the guy goes, well, I got lots of friends. And Doc goes, well, I don't. And, the way he says that line is just, it's about right there, as Lou says, about the loyalty and essentially that male platonic love that has been destroyed by the left. Because, you can't have that type of male love and loyalty anymore without being gay. Because apparently that's the only way you can have that. But that relationship between the two. So 100% on that. But having those two roles be robbed of, really bad. Also, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Never seen it because it's a little too spicy for my taste. But the fact is that it's a really good film. And, Val Kilmer never got a lot of credit for his comedic timing and the way he was, because he was very he had a great range. I actually don't mind the Saint movie. A lot of people don't like it. It's entertaining, especially compared to the crap that's put out today. It makes the film at least enjoyable to watch. Yeah, the plot's far-fetched, and it's not really Charlton Heston shows up at the end. They're gonna have to get through us. It's like, oh yeah, Charlton Heston, nice. Tombstone's a classic Western. It's that and Unforgiven are like the last great American Westerns. There hasn't really been one. I enjoyed the Magnificent Seven reboot because I like Westerns, and the Magnificent Seven, the first one, is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. I used to play it as my end music on the radio station. Plus, that score is amazing. That and Stagecoach. Stagecoach is probably one of the. It was the forefront of the Western film, but it's back to Steph's point about aging sucks. It also, for people in our generation, it starts to really kind of like hit home, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's dead too. I'll see that. Like, I'll turn on a song by an artist. I'll be like, oh yeah, that guy's dead. He's gone. That guy's gone. Oh, that actor. Yeah, that actor's dead now. He's not here anymore. And it's some, memento mori as far as Catholics are concerned. It's just really a reminder of it. But if you are watching in the replay, let me know your favorite Val Kilmer performance in the comment section down below. And there's no wrong answer, really, whether it's Tombstone, whether it's Heat, whether it's Willow, whether it's Real Genius. any of those films, you could absolutely say are deserved of being there. So, oh, that's the documentary Val. If you have Amazon or if it's on another platform, I highly recommend watching the documentary Val. The son provides the actor's voice, and the films utilize hundreds of hours of video he recorded. It's really an interesting look at what he was doing after his throat cancer and how he was trying to get around. And Ghost in the Darkness. Anybody ever see that one? Him and what's the guy? Michael something. He's super old now. He's married to Catherine Zeta-Jones. Somebody will know who he is. Can't believe I forgot who he was. But that movie was completely ruined by that guy. That guy came in and completely destroyed that film. But that movie is underrated as well. He's really good in that film. So it's, time comes for us all, and it's unfortunate, but it doesn't shock me considering his body was just wrecked after, let's see, Ghost in the Darkness and the forgettable remake of The Saint. It's not a bad film to watch. Also, The Prince of Egypt was a film that he was in that a lot of people, I've never seen that, but a lot of people like that as well. Michael Douglas, that's the guy. Michael Douglas, he pretty much ruined A Ghost in the Darkness because the role that he plays was supposed to be much shorter, but Michael Douglas wanted it to be a bigger role and completely different than the character was supposed to be, and it just rewrote the film, and it's not as good as it could have been. So, Requiescem Pace to Val Kilmer, eternal rest grant unto him, the Lord, and let perpetual shine upon him. May he rest in peace. Fly high, Iceman. Enjoy, hopefully you are in a better place. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this episode. Flying by. Time flies when you're having a good time here on RickCast. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, smash it if you want, super kick it if you need to, help the show grow. Leave a comment on Rumble or on any of the platforms that you'll see this on. And I really appreciate you guys being here on this Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. My bar rats assembled in the YouTube chat. Always shout out to my YouTube chat. You guys are great. My one guy on Twitch, my soldier out there on Twitch. Thank you for always keeping it down out there. And yeah, I will talk to you all tomorrow on the 3rd of April, 2025. God bless, ladies and gentlemen. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.